This is Lost, Survivors and the Others, the premier podcast for Lost fanboys and first-time watchers. We are your hosts, Brandon Rabar and Samuel Spence. How you doing tonight, Sam?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pumped, man. Okay, so let's set this up. Both of us huge Lost fans. For me, I'm kind of a list maker. I make lists for everything, and my all-time TV show list goes Sopranos, Game of Thrones, Lost. Lost is my all-time number 3 favorite show. Where is it for you, all-time shows?
Oh, man, that's tough. It was definitely in the number 1 spot for a long time.
Mine too.
I would say probably until recently, new shows kind of like Game of Thrones and Westworld have sort of maybe knocked it out of its top spot. I feel like it's almost not even fair, though, because Lost was the show that got me into these kind of shows.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, and in some respects, it's just, Lost is it's a little bit older now. But man, rewatching it for this podcast, I had forgotten just how good it was. So who knows? It might start climbing back up the list again.
Yeah, I'm the same way as you. It was my number 1 show for a while, and we started talking. We're friends, and we have a big group of friends, and we were all kind of chatting about TV shows. And Sam and I are both those guys that when all-time great favorite shows get brought up, we always bring up Lost. And I don't know about you, but you know how the internet is, and like Lost is a weird show. It's a polarizing show. You got fans like us who just love it to death, and you have those people that watched it up until, say, season 3 or season 4, and they're like, oh, it got too weird, or they didn't know what they were doing. They were just making stuff up as they went along. They didn't answer all the mysteries. And then you have people that watched it all the way to the end and either loved it or hated it. But you and I are those guys on the internet and in chat rooms that are defending Lost, right? Are you the same way? Have you felt like you've had to fight for Lost and how good it is?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, even among my group of friends that watched it all the way through to the finale, like we disagreed, sometimes vehemently on exactly what we had watched.
Yes.
I maintain there are certain things about the show that are undeniable, and we'll get into that as the podcast goes on and everything. But yeah, I absolutely think it was a great show. I think it's pretty obvious that in the early seasons they maybe didn't always have a perfect idea of where they were going, and and when they shortened the seasons, the writing got a lot tighter. I felt like. That being said, as a pioneering show and something that was just really new, I don't remember ever watching anything quite like Lost before I saw Lost.
Absolutely not.
For that, I was really impressed with it, and that's without even getting into, the production value, the cinematography.
Oh yeah,
the framing of the first shot and the last shot of the series. Like that sort of stuff. There's really, even if you didn't like the way the story went in Lost, there was so much more going on there to that show.
Oh, there absolutely was. Like you said, it had really production value wise, it was cinematic quality. I mean, from the very opening moment, the pilot episode, the plane crash and everything. I mean, I know they spent millions on that pilot episode, and it just looked and sounded so good, top notch. And we haven't mentioned, this was a network TV show. It was on ABC. And, nowadays we're kind of used to the cinematic quality in TV shows. But before Lost, certainly on network TV, that was not the case. I know on HBO, they've been doing it for a little while. But on network TV, to me, I don't think they had seen anything like this show. And I don't think network or cable, anything had built this kind of world before. I mean, I know Game of Thrones now, Westworld now, but this was so many characters, a remote setting, and, the different storylines weaving together, future, past, present, all those things. I don't think we'd seen a show with world building like this before Lost. And that was one of the things, you said, besides just, the storylines, to me, the world building and the characters, more than anything, probably what drew me into the show and really got me hooked, along with the mysteries. So the setup for this podcast is that we're going to discuss some things as, big time fans and people that love the show since day one. And then we have some friends who have never watched this show before, and we wanted to get their thoughts on it, good, bad, in between. And it'll be fun. I think whether you're somebody who's loved Lost for a long time, or maybe you're a first time viewer, I think that anybody can get into this show and this podcast is kind of the idea.
And I gotta tell you, my favorite thing so far has been sort of watching along to the reactions our first time viewer friends have had while they're watching the series for the first time.
Yeah,
especially I've been teasing them a little bit to some degree, just because I know stuff that's coming, and watching them react, especially just how quickly they go back and forth on characters. Like, they love them one episode, they hate them the next, and it really drives home how much that first season of Lost was about complicated people. Like, nobody was a good person, nobody was a bad person. They were all on this island together, and they had to figure out how to survive. And just when you think you had a handle on who this person was, they threw you a new backstory episode, and it all got blown out of the water.
Yeah,
and
the
other thing too is that flashback structure.
Yes,
was unique. Like, I had never seen anything like it at the time.
Yes.
The way it faded in and out with the story on the island and made obvious connections and parallels, I felt like added to the storytelling. And like you were talking about how it was a character-driven show. And then it also added another layer of mystery when you started seeing the characters cross tracks.
Yes.
Even one of our first-time viewers, when he was finishing up season 1, noticed, I think it was in an episode that focused on Jin and Sun, you see Hurley on the television in the background. And
right.
His lottery winning, but they don't know that's why he's on the TV yet. So he had noticed, and he's like, wow, Hurley's famous. I wonder why. And I'm like, man, I can't wait till he gets to the next episode.
Yes.
So it was really impressive going through, not having watched season 1 in a while, and seeing how much they hid that was there from the very beginning, even though nobody knew what to pay attention to.
Right. And I think for those people who think that the writers didn't know where this was going, that they were just throwing things, together as they went along. If you watch season 1, there are a lot of nuggets. There are a lot of things, like you said, hidden, some Easter eggs that come into play later on. So, like you said earlier, I don't know if they had exactly everything written out from the beginning. I think my viewpoint is they probably had some sort of outline. We start here, these characters are doing this, we got to get here, and this will be the end. And then they probably filled in as they went along, or got a broader picture as the kind of story or characters wrote themselves. But yeah, there's so much in season 1 that comes into play later. Now, we talked about this off the air, but another thing that I think needs to be mentioned as we're kind of setting this up, as far as Lost being a pioneer show, this kind of came along at the very beginning of, internet forums and people talking online. And to me, Lost was the first show where after every week, people were getting together online and trying to figure out the mysteries, rewatching it, stopping the show frame by frame, deciphering things in the background. That's kind of become more commonplace now, but Lost was the first show to do that. Don't you think? For me, it was. I know that.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, the funny thing, I rolled my eyes at a few theories early on in the show, like especially the ones that were analyzing, like geometrical shapes in the frames and things like that. And then you see the Dharma Initiative logo, and I was an idiot the whole time. But yeah, and so for me, part of the fun was every week, watching it with your friends. And then that was the only show I could ever remember getting together with a group of people to watch every week. Like, we always had at least 4 people. And you discuss what happened. Later on, when I was in graduate school, I had a friend who was really into philosophy, and so he would break down the weird stuff that happened on the show from that side. I had a bachelor's degree in physics, so I found all the weird science stuff that happened in the later seasons really interesting. And that was what I found really cool about it, was not just going online to read what other people had written, but like I'd see something in the show and I'm like, whoa, what are they talking about? And then I'd go online and, end up reading on Wikipedia for hours about the Casimir effect and what's an exotic material and all this stuff. And so that was what was really cool about Lost to me, is that even if something, maybe they mentioned it once and it never came up again, they knew what they were talking about and they included it for a reason. So even the red herrings were believable. And I think that's what both intrigued people and sometimes frustrated them, because they got, too invested going down this path that the guys had tricked them into.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think that for some people, when they got disappointed, whether it be how they wrapped up the mysteries or how the show ultimately ended, I think that was another thing. Lost fans got so worked. I mean, Lost fans back when this was on live were rabid. I mean, feasting on every nugget of information and analyzing and overanalyzing. And I know for a fact that the writers were aware of this. And so they did start, I think they already were, but then knowing that people were going frame by frame, they started adding some things. But, when you build something up that much and get that obsessive with it, and, people tend to fall in love with their own theories or what they think is going to happen. It's one of those things you're never going to be able to satisfy everybody. And, when expectations are so high, you're bound to be let down. For me, that wasn't the case. I was ultimately very satisfied with the finale. And of course, we'll get to that later. We're going to do one episode for every season, by the way. So this first episode is going to cover season 1. And pretty soon here, we're going to get all the newbies on and some other friends of ours who've watched the show before and kind of go through a discussion. But I think you're bringing up a great point there. Now, before we jump to the next segment, I am curious. Tell us your history with Lost, how you started watching it, whether it was binging or were you watching week to week and all that?
Yeah, so my friends and I, we all got, sick with a cold one weekend in college, and we rented the first season of Lost on DVD and binged it really, really quickly, I think. It was a very, especially if you're sick, just sitting on the couch, very easy show to just watch one after the other. And so after we watched season 1, we were pretty much hooked. And so we started watching, I think, with the start of season 2. And I know by season 3, I was watching it week to week because, man, did I hate Nikki and Paolo. Week to week, that was just rough. So I was actually really happy when they shortened it down from, like 30 episodes a season to about 16. Because it, especially going week to week, waiting on a show like Lost, there was a lot more per episode that you got when you waited each week after, starting with season 4.
I think that's the one thing that all Lost fans, all Lost haters, everyone can agree on. Everybody hated Nikki and Paolo, and they got what they deserved. We won't discuss it yet, but it was pretty fitting how they met their end.
It was satisfying.
Yes.
I will say.
Yes, it absolutely was. Yeah, see, for me, I think that you're right. I loved what happened with me was one of my ex-girlfriends had watched Lost, and I remember it was the season 3 premiere. She was excited about and wanted me to watch with her. I was like, I don't like just jumping into shows, but I don't want to watch the show anyways. I don't know what, so I watched season 3, episode 1 with her. And about halfway through that, I was like, you know what? I'm kind of into this. I want to stop watching because I don't want to be spoiled on anything. So I stopped watching about halfway through episode 1 of season 3. Then I went back and rented all the DVDs from Blockbuster. I remember I was like every day after work, I was turning in 2 or 3 DVDs because I got so hooked. I was watching. For me, that was the first show I ever binged. I was watching like 4 or 5 episodes, 6 episodes a night. It was insane. I couldn't stop. I'd have work at like 8 o'clock in the morning, one of the only times I had a 9-to-5 job. But I'd still stay up till like 3 or 4 in the morning because I couldn't stop watching Lost. So I binged the whole first 2 seasons. And I love that there were, 24 or whatever episodes it was at the time. Yeah. I needed more and more. It was like I was on crack. I just couldn't put it down. And so I went through those first 2 seasons and then caught up with season 3, maybe, 4 or 5 episodes into it, and then had to watch week to week. And that's like kind of coming off of a high, getting to watch like 4 or 5 episodes a night and then having to wait a week in between each episode. But ultimately, I think it was, a good thing. As much fun as it was binging, it's kind of nice to sit on each mystery, each cliffhanger, and each storyline for a week and kind of digest it. And that really helps you delve into the mystery and the aura, I think, of Lost.
Yeah, and it was also the first show that pretty much every year I would rewatch the earlier seasons.
Right.
Like,
yes.
Partly just to refresh your memory, but also like you'd rewatch them and knowing what I know now, like, oh, I'm noticing all this stuff that I didn't notice before. So yeah, it was definitely one of those shows where it was very easy to watch and rewatch and rewatch. And, you were trying to figure out what was going to happen. That's why you were watching so much.
Yeah. It was so much fun to try to put the puzzle pieces together.
That's what I'm loving about this podcast, is watching these guys try to figure out what's happening. And sometimes they'll ask me questions. I'm like, I can't answer that because I'd have to spoil like 8 layers of the show for you.
yeah. With Lost, like answering one question, like, dude, I'm gonna have to answer like 10 questions just to get to that question.
Yeah,
explain all these things. Yeah, it's not worth it. You're just gonna have to watch it.
So yeah, I've been really, I was glad when it was a different time. I felt like for each of our new viewers, but you could tell when they got sucked in and like just couldn't stop watching anymore.
It's so much fun. Okay, so speaking of the new viewers, you want to invite them on now?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and get them on.
Okay, cool. So now's the segment of the show where we bring on 2 of our friends who have never watched Lost before. Like we said, this is the survivors and the others. The survivors are the first-time watchers. The others are Sam and myself, big fanboys. So we have with us Josh and Youthish. How you guys doing tonight?
Good.
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking.
Good. I'm pumped. I'm so excited to hear what both of you guys think about season 1 of Lost. I'm going to give it over to Sam because he's kind of written out some question and he's going to lead a kind of a panel discussion here.
All right, guys. So first question, how do you like Lost so far?
Josh,
go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like it a lot. I think like some of the episodes are slower than others, but we're still building a lot of character development and everything. But overall, I like it a lot.
I was anti-Lost until like maybe. Are we allowed to drop spoilers?
Yeah. We're talking about all
yeah.
of season
The
1.
second Son spoke English. That's when I was like, all right, this show was something.
Okay.
Really?
Okay.
It was like what, episode 6, episode 7.
Yeah.
I was dreading watching Lost. I think people in the group chat know. I was like, oh my god, I gotta do Lost again.
What, you weren't hooked after finding out Lost was in a wheelchair, or Locke was in a wheelchair?
No, okay, I was like, oh, I think Locke is a weird character.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the dude can walk again.
It's great. You can walk. Wonderful.
He's like,
I swear, man. I swear,
The
people
Son
are
can speak
jaded these
English.
days.
That didn't push me over. When Son spoke English, I was like, oh, okay, there's more layers to this character right now. I think she's like my top 3 favorite characters.
And see, that's don't get me wrong. I love Sun. Sun is a great character. I am just surprised to hear somebody after season 1 say Sun is in my top 3.
I actually love though hearing that's what hooked him was.
Yeah.
That was a great moment. I specifically remember the first time I watched Lost and kind of being mind blown when you find out that she can speak English. But I never would have thought that would have been what hooked somebody. So that's actually kind of cool to me. Kind of unique.
And I think he's got a point about the layers too, right? Because there's the mystical stuff that everybody knows about, but there's a lot of stuff to the characters. Like there's a lot of character development on the show. And that moment with Sun was really kind of shocking, like, because you've been led to believe, hey, neither of these people speak English, and now you're wondering, has she been reacting to stuff the whole time and I haven't been seeing it? Like, what's been going on?
Part of me thought, oh, does Jin probably speak English now too? Are they trying to hide this stuff? Why would they hide it? Like, there's a lot of layers to it as well. And I think I'm an English teacher as well, so I was like, you know what? Maybe this is like an easy way to hook me in. Okay, cool.
With languages.
Yeah.
Sawyer's going to bust out some Korean next.
What about you, Josh? Do you remember the moment at which like you were really hooked on it?
I mean, I really liked the first Locke episode where like that you found out that he was in a wheelchair previously. And then the Hurley episode really pushed it towards the end of the season.
Okay, so yeah, numbers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's use that as a little bit of a segue. What's up with the numbers, guys?
That's some weird stuff, man. Can I just first say that Hurley's luck and Hurley's story is unbelievably sad.
Yes.
It's super sad.
And him being used as comic relief throughout the entire series, I'm like, damn, can he just get a break? Like,
So, and this is, I don't want to be spoilery at all for you guys, but all of the characters grow. So what the roles you see them playing now in season 1, just know none of them are going to stay in those roles throughout the entire show. So you're absolutely right. Hurley has been pretty much comic relief for season 1.
Does Hurley go to med school?
Yes, he goes to Others Med U. Doc Reyes.
I love that, because they talked about each specific episode, like the Hurley episode. That was something I really loved when I first started watching Lost, was this flashback format and how each character, you got this dedicated show. And you kind of feel bonded to, in a good or bad way. Like by the end of their episode, you have a good idea for who they are and what they're about. And you either end up really liking or disliking these characters after each episode. I just thought it was for me, that was one of the things that hooked me in, was just the flashback format.
Well, and they also, Lost it's one of those shows that really, it tries to trick you. Not necessarily in mean or bad ways, but Jin and Sun are a great example. The first flashback you see of them, it looks like this really unhappy marriage. Sun's just miserable. Jin's this overbearing, awful guy. You see the scene of him washing the blood off of his hands when he's in the bathroom, and you're like, oh, what is this guy up to? And then you get to their second episode and you see how he got there, and you feel terrible for the guy. Like, right. He's in love with the woman. Her dad's an awful guy. Like, he feels like he's protecting this factory guy, by beating the crap out of him. At least he's not getting killed, and then they cut to the island where Sun slaps Michael and tells him, I'm protecting you. And it's like the parallel right there. You've got Jin protecting Sun, or protecting this guy who's shut down the factory from getting killed by Mr. Paik by beating him. I'm protecting you from something awful by doing something bad. And Jin and Sun's doing the same thing for Michael by slapping him and preventing him from getting into a fight with Jin, who's a dangerous man. And so they really play these roles, making people sit in the shoes of somebody else on the island.
Speaking of character, like being a fan of characters throughout and that fluctuating, Sawyer might end up being one of my favorite characters in the entire thing. He was at the bottom of the power ranking after like episode 1, episode 2.
Oh man, he's hateful at the beginning.
He's such a jerk.
Yeah.
By the end of season 1, I'm like, yo, he might be a top 5 character for me.
Yeah,
I'm rooting for Sawyer. Like, his character growth, I'm like, all right, I see you. Redeem yourself.
I would say probably season 1, Sawyer may grow or change, or his, at least his character arc is probably, stronger than anybody's, maybe, right? I can't think of anybody else who changed as much and from being unlikable to likable, or at least somewhat likable as Sawyer in season 1. Is there anybody else?
I don't think so. Like, he went from being really selfish to kind of caring about other people.
Right.
All right. So I'm gonna challenge this a little bit. Do you guys think Sawyer really changed?
Well,
here before you answer, here's what I want to say. I'm not necessarily saying whether he actually, like, I'm not saying he ended up one way or the other at the end of the season. What I'm asking is, did he really change, or did he just present himself differently?
That's a good. Josh, Youthish, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I want to hear what you guys think on that question. So
Josh, go ahead.
I mean, I think he might have actually changed. Like, he seems like it's still things that benefit him, like when he argued with Kate about being on the boat or whatever. But he still does seem to like not be all about keeping his stash and having to trade for everything. Like, he seems like if he can help somebody else, he seems to be a little bit willing to do it if they have a good reason for it.
Okay.
I think it's just the presentability of Sawyer. I think, Sam, you talked about this, like how characters are presented differently, and you get like the second episode of Jin and Sun, and you learn more about Jin. I think it's just Sawyer's always been. I think Sawyer's kind of caring, just isn't. He isn't willing to show that he is caring, so I think that's a sign of weakness. And the second you show caring is the second you can become vulnerable, and the second you become vulnerable is the second someone can take advantage of you. On a deserted island like this, you're prime to be a target if you are vulnerable, if you are this open. I was like, all right. I think pretty much everyone hated Sawyer or disliked Sawyer to an extent. But then the second the presentability changed, like, oh wow, this happened to his parents. And this happened to him. That's what influenced his crusade throughout his past life. It's like, oh, okay, there's different things to him. That's why I'm rooting for Sawyer season 2. I think he's going to be the second we get like more presentable lenses of Sawyer. Hopefully we're to see. Okay, guys are the saint.
A saint. I don't know about that. I'm not sure if anyone on the show is a saint.
I like those reads on it though. I like.
Oh, that was really good. Yeah.
And they still have to make it back to the island at this point. They're stuck out in the ocean.
Yeah.
Didn't one of them get shot too?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sawyer got shot. See, Sawyer's. They're trying to kill.
But no, and I think too, especially for season 1, for people watching Lost, the interesting thing about Sawyer was a lot of people were hiding things on the island. Sawyer seemed to be the only one hiding stuff that would make him look better. Like, he wanted people to see him negatively.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, he's the con man, right? I mean, so
Well, what does that tell you, right? He's the con man, and he spent all his life making people like him to swindle him.
Right.
And now it's almost like he's on a crusade to make sure everybody hates him.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I was reminded just how differently Sawyer approached life on the island to everybody else, and how much they all thought they had him figured out, and nobody really knew where he was coming from.
Yeah.
Because you would think, right, with Sawyer acting the way he was at the beginning, why does he want to be on the raft?
Right, exactly. Now, something I want to ask, talking about characters, I'm really curious, because he's our main character and we haven't brought him up yet. What is your impressions, Josh and Youthish, on Jack? Do you like him as a main?
He tries to be a good guy, and he always tries to do the right thing. He's like Picard in Star Trek. Like, he doesn't want to hurt anybody, no matter, even if it is self-sacrifice or doesn't help everybody as a whole. Like, he's not going to leave any person behind.
And do you like that about him? Like
yeah, I mean, I think I like him. Like, he hasn't done anything that I've seen is super wrong. Like, he's trying to get everybody to get along, everybody to survive. Or like a lot of people, especially early on, didn't want to do anything. They just wanted to like sit around on the beach and wait to be rescued. And he wanted to get stuff going.
Yeah, I don't think it's any sort of spoiler to say, at least, through season 1, I like Jack a lot. I thought he was a great main character for the reasons that you said. I like that he always genuinely tried to do the right thing, regardless of the results, sometimes good, sometimes bad. But there were Lost fans who, weren't as high on Jack. So I'm really curious. What do you think, Youthish? Do you like Jack as a main character? Or nah? Or is he too boring? Is he too kind of stale, boring, cardboard cutout?
So before we go any further, one of my favorite jokes of all time about Lost, from the movie Knocked Up. It's in case you don't know what Knocked Up is, any listeners out there, just a movie about Seth Rogen and it was Katherine Heigl.
Yeah,
they meet, drunkenly hook up, and of course she gets knocked up.
Yeah, which is already more unrealistic than anything that happens in Lost. Sorry,
Yeah,
go
Seth Rogen's way more likable than Catherine Heigl. Anyway, so the morning after their hookup, they're at breakfast, and she's telling them how she's this interviewer at E. She's like, yeah, I'm actually going to be interviewing Matthew Fox, who plays Jack on Lost, later today. And Seth Rogen's character is like, hey, you know what's interesting about Matthew Fox? It's like, what? Absolutely nothing. Can you tell that guy I hate him for me?
See, and that was kind of, and that kind of sums it up. That's kind of a lot of Lost fans just kind of thought Jack was just kind of too, just too like blah, too just kind of stale. And I liked him.
Well, one thing I did point out to these guys is most of these actors and actresses were not well known when Lost started.
Right. Matthew Fox was one of the only ones that was, because he did Party of Five previously, and he'd actually been like People's Sexiest Man Alive back in his Party of Five days.
Oh, wow.
Then was kind of off the radar for a little bit. So Matthew Fox is really kind of the only, because you're right, the other guys were kind of no names. Matthew Fox was the only one that kind of done some, at least mainstream work before. But
so it is a little bit melodramatic early on until they find the sort of tone of the show.
Right.
But anyway, I didn't want to cut you off completely there. Is it Youthish or Utish?
Youthish, the second one.
Okay.
So Jack is cool. I mean, he's like a heightened version of Hayden Christensen, right? Which is
in Star Wars.
Yeah, and like
no,
which is kind of. But I do like Jack. I started liking Jack more towards the latter half of the season, especially in the last few episodes, when Locke brings up the idea of using discretion, of hiding things or hiding like what's it called?
The hatch.
The hatch. There we go.
Yeah.
Jack sort of picked up and played on the idea of discretion and idea of taking on that mantle of being like the leader. That's when I was like, oh, okay, he is plotting something, but it seems Jack is more. It seems antithetical to say this to like Falcon's point, but I think Jack was more reactionary and has been more reactionary, but now he's going to be more proactive in his approaches. Yes, he was the first one to say, hey, we should start moving into the island, or one of the first people to say that, which is a proactive move. But I feel a lot of it's just, he's just responding rather than like plotting ahead or planning forward, which is weird to say, because all the evidence goes against him. But it's just a feeling that I have that he could be doing a bit more instead of just being reactionary right now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
I love hearing these thoughts and theories on these characters and where they're going.
Yeah, and I thought that's a really good observation, and even there's a quote Jack has in season 1 where he's like, you guys are all happy with me being leader until I start making decisions you don't like.
Yeah.
And so it's a very good point, because leadership is a very central theme to Jack's arc in season 1. Like, what is leadership? What his dad taught him about his leadership, and how that feeds into how he reacts to the world and everything. And I mean, what I think of when I think about that, because you're very right, especially in the early episodes, Jack's like running from one crisis to the next. Like, that's most of Lost, is just watching Jack run to the next person who's dying and saving their life. But like, remember, the very first thing we see him do after he saves a couple people is he talks Kate through suturing a wound on him. Mm-hmm. She doesn't think she can do it, and he just walks her through it right there. And so it's kind of easy to lose those little moments as you go all the way through the season. But so you guys brought up the hatch and Locke. So we talked about Locke a little bit earlier, but he's another one of those central characters to season 1. What do you guys make of John Locke?
Falcon, you can go ahead first.
Okay. I mean, he seems very manipulative. He's very good at like talking to people to get what he wants. And he's really happy to be on the island, almost like he knows something more than everybody else does. And obviously, he saw the smoke monster before everybody else did. And it didn't seem to bother him that much. Like, he was surprised, but that was about it. So he is an alternative agenda that we don't know about yet.
I would say that's pretty spot on as far as Locke season 1 goes. He is a very mysterious man. Is all I will add to that. That's all I'll add. Ethan, what were your thoughts on Locke? Sorry, guys. My baby's in the other room watching Trolls at like 47 on the volume scale. It just got turned down. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not, but I could not even hear what I was just saying.
That's cute.
Thank you. I thought so. So, what do you think of John Locke?
I think Sam was the first one to point out. I was like, "Yo, like watch out for like the last names of these characters because it points towards something." I was like, "All right." The first time I heard Locke was like the philosopher Locke. I was like, "All right, cool." And then that like plays into like Rousseau afterwards. Side note: I made a good Rousseau joke, like mentioning the social contract in the group chat. No one appreciated it. I was like, "What?"
I got to break it to you, buddy. I haven't read most of these philosophers.
Oh my goodness!
I've read a little bit of John Locke and Natural Law, but that's about it.
I had to read Rousseau for this French history class in like third year university, and I was like, "Great! This is one thing I can remember from that class." Or and I made the joke, and like I was like, "Damn, oh my god!"
I figured it was a Rousseau joke, but man, I'm sorry, I definitely haven't read Rousseau.
And I studied legitimate powers and everything. I was like, "Oh, this is so deep."
But also not just the last names. Keep an eye out for books. They like to drop hints with the books that characters are reading.
Finally, reading all those books as a kid is paying off.
Hey, with Lost, it really will. There's a lot of pretty obscure references, man.
Hey, we may not have got your joke, but I can guarantee the writers and creators of Lost really appreciate that you picked up on all of that.
J.J. Abrams, please sign me. Like I have a Batman script that you would love. It's him versus the Joker and the Riddler. Like you would love it. It's great. I promise you, it's so good.
That sounds really outside the box.
So this is like just out of left field, but I kind of want Benedict Cumberbatch to play the Riddler one day.
Oh, nah, not in my script.
What? Oh,
I mean,
okay. Anyway, we'll talk about your script later. Let's not get too far off track.
Logan, who was supposed to be on, he knows part of my script, but I digress. So I think Locke I'm not a fan of Locke. I'm just not a fan.
That's one way to put it. All right.
I'm not a fan of characters who have this supernatural or this undefinable redeemable quality about them, where they're always right. Where their instinct is always right. Which also bothered me about Walt, but we'll get to that later maybe.
So let's talk about that a little bit though. Do you think was Locke without doubt in season 1?
Locke is like this mixture of I think he just gets super lucky. But he's also like the chosen one, and I think that's like an ironic approach.
Whoa! Talk about that more. Why'd you call him the chosen one?
The chosen one. Well, I think that popped up when what's his name? His mom was like, "Oh, you were immaculately conceived."
Oh, right.
And I was like, "Oh, okay. There is something going on here." And I think, okay, I have a little theory. I think Walt and Locke, their relationship it's done on purpose. Like their alignment is done on purpose. Like they're both like the chosen one.
Interesting.
And they both have this perspective that is needed. So with Walt, I think it was a few people in like a few instances during the latter half of the season was like, "Oh, this kid is special. This kid is really special." But for Locke, we see that actualized. He regains the ability to walk. All of his survival tactics seem to work, and that's maybe because he watched Discovery Channel more than everyone. He's the hatch idea, which he's like, it was a calling. That's why he wanted Jack to like let him go and go into like the beast and everything. I was like, no, what do you like, this guy is something else. And I'm not a fan of them opening up the hatch. I think that was a mistake.
So you're with Saeed that opening up the hatch was a bad idea.
Yeah, because it was the first time because I think this was like Locke's like perfect streak challenged for the first time, like legitimately challenged, because like a hatch is unopenable, and they grab like dynamite sticks, whatever it was, and that dude Arntz,
Oh yeah.
they
I
blew
love
that
Arntz.
dude up, man. They blew that dude up.
That was one of my favorite like
That
little
was
bits of
so
comic
sad.
relief from season 1.
I was
And then
like,
when
He
Hurley
was such a
later
dick for them.
he
He kind of
turns,
deserved it.
oh yeah, well when Hurley turns the jack and he's like, you got a little bit of arst on you.
He remains a lost legend though for a guy
Oh,
that was in the show for, like, not at all really.
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of remains like an iconic character
Well,
because of the way he went out.
When Logan was watching, he started complaining about him when he shows up talking about the monsoon, and I just laughed my ass off because I'm like, "All right, yes, I can't wait to get to the part where he blows up." Because it comes like he's literally telling them, "Don't wave this shit around, or your arm will blow up." And
he's like carefully wrapping in mud drenched shirts.
I never knew this. I was reading episode recaps today. Apparently, in a like webisode or something like that, Ars admits to Michael or somebody else that he made all the monsoon stuff up because he just wanted the boat to leave.
That trickery.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah. So you didn't like that? You thought opening the hatch was a bad idea for Locke?
Yeah.
Huh?
I think it was a bad idea. Also, was that a ghost or some sort of spirit, that black dust or black ghost thing that Kate and
Yeah, what did you call it earlier, Josh?
A smoke monster?
I thought it was a Dementor. Like I was like,
Dementor.
it's like we're crossing universes here. We're doing the most. Like this show is I do fear though, like the second mysticism and the magical realm gets introduced, or if it does get introduced into Lost, I'm gonna lose interest immediately. I
We'll
do
see.
feel that fear.
We'll see.
Yeah. I like the show though, so it's cool.
That's
The
good.
monster definitely makes some weird noises, so it's
I-
going to be interesting.
I mean, I think you guys are, aware that there's definitely mysteries on the show. Like,
Right.
The show is about mysteries.
I think the monster is fake.
What do you mean by
Interesting.
fake?
I think the other people
Yes.
they've worked the island to the point where they can catapult like a bunch of stones and dirt, whatever it is, and they've managed to echo certain sounds and do whatever theatrical elements you do to like make stuff believable, to the point where like they've created like a monster. So anytime someone gets near something or near a clue that can get them off the island, it's like, all right, the other people are going to be sending warning signals like, oh, here's like an imaginary, like a monster or something.
Dude, I'm not going to say whether you're right or wrong. I will not give away a spoiler. All I will say is the first time I watched it, I had the exact same thought, which is got to be kind of rare, right? Because I thought I had like a pretty unique thought when I thought that. So that's pretty wicked that you have the same thought that I did the first. I'm not going to say whether you're right or wrong, but
So I'm curious though, why would they do that? Why do they sound off the alarm when the guys are about to find something to get off the island?
Well, because we don't know anything about these people. We don't know whether they're good or bad. We don't know, they're a mystery at this point. They seem like they're bad, and they seem like, they don't have their best interest. It would make sense. And I'm glad that he brought up the other people, because for me, that was like the big jaw-dropping moment in season 1, was like the other people and the mystery behind the other people and what they were up to. And it just made kind of simple sense to me, like just simple math. Like, okay, we know we got these people, our main characters, and then we got these other people, and then you got this element, this kind of mysterious monster element. It would make sense if you don't think anything supernatural is happening, that it was kind of a manifestation of them. At least that was my thought.
Right.
First time watching it.
Yeah, and so Tish, you had said you think the monster shows up whenever they're about to discover something that could help them get off the island. Why do you think that is?
The other people I think the other people have adapted so well to the island, or they've purposely gone out of their way to get lost on this island. Or you know what? I think the other people, Epiphany, the other people came to this island. They're like, you know what? Let's have a vacation, whatever it might be. But they ended up finding that there's no more hierarchies on this island. There's no more structured-based ideas on this island. So why not live freely? And the second Rousseau's team comes there, it's like, oh, okay, our hierarchy is going to be challenged. Let's get rid of them. And the second this new fight comes, this 815 Oceanic, these people come along. It's like, oh, okay, you know what? They're challenging our hierarchy as well. So let's keep them on the island. Let's use them as maybe like food, because like boar has to run out soon enough, and they can't like serve. Okay, weirdly enough, dandelions have 200% of your daily nutritional factor of like nutrition of vitamin A. So you can't like live off dandelions all the time, even though you probably can. I don't know. Some scientist is going to correct me in the comment section. But I feel like you get tired of dandelions, get tired of boar. You can't. I don't know if you can eat polar bear. You probably can. I don't know. But
So
how polar bears survive on that thing is a different mystery.
So this is a good time to sort of open the discussion up a little bit wider. So what's going on the show, guys?
Yeah, that's just overall. What do you think? What do you think's happening, Josh?
I mean, obviously you have people that have been there for a long time, and like with the age of like the Black Rock, it was probably at least a few hundred years since like the first people hit that island. And so since then, like more and more people have showed up, and they've all probably fought each other. And there's probably, who knows how long the others have been there and how much power they have. And is each new group, they try to like find things out, figure out, because obviously this hatch went somewhere, and like it obviously has a lot of construction to it. It's not just something that just got buried there by accident. So there's definitely something bigger going on than just what's in your face of like people trying to survive on this island and whatever. They all seem to also have some sort of problem that they're running from or going towards from the past, why they were on that flight to begin with.
Cool.
That's pretty. That's pretty.
It's a really good observation.
Yeah, it was. It's so hard not to comment on it, like just because I want to add or whatever. I just like end up having to just say, "Oh, that's really interesting."
Well, and I think one good observation to make there is whether Lost is just referring to the fact that they're on the island, or is it maybe referring to the fact who they are as people?
Dude, I just saw the Lost symbol in the music right after you said that, like in my head.
You can add that in post-production.
Yeah.
So what about you, Tish? What's going on this show?
I think this is a Jackson Pollock painting personified. There's so much going on at the same time, and there's so much yet to be discovered. And then the second you realize there might be a pattern somewhere, it's like, no, there's no pattern here. You keep going in circles, and then you try. I think maybe because I'm just on season 1. You guys have probably watched this. You know, like how like the dots connect, etc. But I'm not. Please, like, interrupt me, Josh, if I'm not speaking on behalf of you. But I feel like there's a lot of misdirection and purposely done misdirection, to the point where you can't even figure out the series until like probably the series finale. Like, so I made a comment like in the group chat for all, like the group chat's the WhatsApp chat for those people who don't even know what I'm talking about. But I think this is like an existential representation of lostness. It's like all of these ideas, all of these things are more of misdirection, lack of direction. And I'm curious to see if all these like dots are connected in some way, or if they're probably not. Because Sam, like you brought up the idea of like presentability and like the representation of things. Sawyer was made out to seem as like a very vulnerable character, a very likable character to some, but by the end of the season, that's only because he's been presented differently. I'm curious to see if any of these things start to connect, or if it's like, okay, here's another. The show is called Lost. Here's a layer of Lost with all of these characters, either going left or right, or maybe just they'll just be static and not do anything.
They slowly seem to be finding themselves or learning more things as they go on the island.
Yeah.
Well, and I will say, this show has some pretty epic red herrings, so you're not wrong there.
Okay.
Now
it does, but at the same time, there are some things. That's absolutely true. But then at the same time, they're not all red herrings. So some of the things lead to things that make sense. Some of the things you just come out of nowhere, and that's what was always kind of cool for me. It always kind of kept you on your toes and kept you guessing, because sometimes it would be the most logical thing, and sometimes it would be the most bizarre thing, which is another thing I really liked about the show.
And I will say, I mean, as a Rabid fan, there was stuff I figured out going into season 6. Now, there's some stuff that it's just not necessarily predictable. But there are themes about the show, central conflicts to the show that have been set up already in season 1. So from that aspect, there is stuff you've seen in the season that's going to matter all the way through to the end of the show.
Right.
So that's I won't go any further than that, but there is a story that's happening, and you've already seen it start to take shape.
This is why Vincent is my favorite character.
Vincent's great, man. I love that dog.
The only constant that we can rely on.
Dude, he just said the constant.
Yeah, that's an episode name. Later.
That is.
Oh my goodness,
iconic episode.
That's one thing I would recommend to you guys. Is I know sometimes when you're watching online, you just see episode numbers. Read the episode titles as you're going.
Yeah,
they almost always have some meaning.
Yeah,
Lost in Translation was a good one.
Yeah, I didn't even know about that until I read it online. Like that it was supposed to be like it was the ... in translation.
Yeah, that was good
with Lost. Yeah. Well, Tabula Rasa, early episode feeds into the whole philosophy sort of bent.
When did Lost start?
It started in 2004.
Was J.J. Abrams a big deal back then in 2004? Because I can't remember.
Before or after Alias?
It was after Alias, I believe. I think that was kind of, I think Alias was kind of his breakout, and then Lost was like his big breakout. If my memory serves me correct.
And like it was a big deal at the time because the pilot was really expensive to film. Like the guy who greenlit it at ABC, I think the exec ended up getting fired over it. It was a groundbreaking show. Like in
absolutely.
A lot of ways.
Yeah.
From like the production value, the scope of the plot and everything. So yeah, it was really different when it came out.
Yeah. So Sam, any other things we want to hit him with?
Let's see. So you mentioned Walt earlier, and you said you would follow up a little bit about that. What'd you think about Walt?
Josh, we'll throw it to you first.
I mean, I think there's something going on with Walt. Like he has some sort of special power, which is why the others wanted him. He seems to know things before they happen. Like he told Locke not to open the hatch, or like he's reading the comic book with a polar bear in it, and then he gets attacked by a polar bear. Mm-hmm. Or like in his flashback, he's like reading a book about a bird, and that kind of bird crashes into the window and dies. There seems to be something else, like he has another level of depth to like his ability, or he's special, or kind of like what we had talked about before, something else going on with him.
So do you think he seems important to the overall, storyline of the show? Do you think he's a big deal?
So.
Okay. Yeah. Obviously he's wanted by the others, like you said, so there's got to be... Now, you just said that if it goes the supernatural way, he might lose interest. Do you feel like what you've seen so far of Walt is leaning supernatural, or is that still kind of
We're to see
You know,
we're to see Walt levitating. We're to see him do like all these things. I'm gonna lose interest. He's gonna have like an Infinity Stone or so, like one of those Marvel stones with him. Like I'm ready to check out. Like I think this is part of me is like, okay, there's enough ammo here, potential ammo here for me to like just check out the show immediately. And I hope Walt is not the incarnation of all these things combined.
Well, let me say this. The show never stops being about character development.
yes.
It starts being about other things too, but it never stops being about character development.
Just spoil this for me. Does Walt start levitating during his meditations or something? Because that's a point I've been trying to get to in my meditation levels. When I see a kid do that before me,
I mean,
slightly jealous.
do you mean does he levitate or does he push the earth away from him?
Oh my goodness. It's gonna be like Avatar. You were to see him control fire, wind, ice, the earth. Like,
I kind of like that youth is just like this though, because it kind of puts a nice element on the show. Because obviously Sam and I are huge fans, and Josh seems to be really liking it so far, and Youthish seems to like it, but he's not completely sold yet. So it's kind of fun to get that perspective. So even if he remains kind of like on the fence about it, it's going to be interesting to hear his thoughts.
I feel
because that kind of sums up Lost fans, right? Like as a whole. I mean, they were kind of all over the place as far as I think it was a wide section of people who loved it and people who doubted it but continued to watch it.
It sounds to me, at the very least, like he's a little bit invested in the characters now. So, yeah, and that's the thing. That's how Lost gets you. Even the people who were unsatisfied with it in the end,
yes,
they stuck with it because the characters.
Is it Vincent? I'm done with the show. I'm done. There's no point.
So
Boone went out. I was like, you know what? I'm okay if Boone goes out, but if Vince, like that hit me, like Vincent goes out. What is the point of me watching this show?
Dude, you get a whole flashback Vincent episode in season 2. So just
do we
stick
actually?
around. No,
We probably don't.
Sorry, man.
It's called The Incredible Journey.
Oh my god.
Homeward bound.
Vincent was like joining adoption center, and separated with his like family too. So you feel like the emotional sentiment growing.
So I got questions about 2 more characters for you guys, and then we'll go into some kind of more fun stuff. All right. So first up, what's up with Rousseau?
The worst character.
Oh wow! All right, let's hear that.
I'm fed up with Rousseau. Like the whole. I think when she took Claire's baby, I was like, I need to take a flight to this island right now and protect that baby. There's no way you're gonna take that baby and risk everyone. The idea, I think Saeed said, "Oh yeah, she's gonna take it back and probably trade it in for Alex, her child." Like, are you kidding me right now? Like they're gonna take a baby and they're gonna give you like a 16-year-old, 17-year-old, however Alex is right now. Alex is gonna if I think we see Alex during Lost, or at least I hope we do. Like, and Alex is like next in line to be the leader of the others or something wild like that. That would be pretty fun to see. But no, you can't do that to a baby. The baby's innocent, it's cute, all that stuff. Now I'm thinking back to like my baby cousins when they were like babies. Like, oh, someone took that. Oh my god! You gotta. That's the one point of like, I'm not a big Charlie fan, which upsets Sam a bit. But I was like, you know what? This is one time I might ride with Charlie. It's like, yo, we have to save this baby.
Yeah, man.
Do you not like Charlie because of the drugs thing, or because you don't like indie rock?
I like indie rock.
Okay.
He thinks killing is bad.
Yeah, killing is wrong. But I think Charlie is so. Is it weird to say Charlie is so? He's so erratic that erraticism is static in terms of his character arc. Like he's been so out of sync in terms of what normality is perceived to be. Like not on drugs, not being a rock star.
I will say that unlike a lot of the other character arcs, Charlie's is back and forth. Like it's not a straight progress line for Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously,
Which
he picked up the heroin at the end of the episode. So
Yeah.
right, which makes sense given his addiction and the fact that he, like Josh said, gets some more.
Did I just get cut out?
What's that?
Did I freeze up?
No, you're.
Oh.
Can you hear it?
Yeah, I can hear you guys. When
So what
Charlie was hanging, when he was getting lynched, I was like, oh, damn, I don't want to see Charlie go out right now. Like, I want to see him like live out through the entire series. So maybe I do like Charlie a bit. I have a little soft spot for him.
I could say this is Charlie was probably not one of my favorite characters after the first season.
Whoa.
I mean, I didn't dislike him, but I don't think he was in my top 3 after the first season. And he can be a little bit annoying in season 1. Like, I can definitely see that rewatching the series. So, like, it's not that surprising to me that you guys aren't like in love with Charlie. I just, especially the part of his backstory where you find out he didn't want the rock and roll. He was just about the music. His brother got into all the rock and roll crap and ruined it for him, and then got him into the drugs. And then you see the roles completely reversed, like he's exactly where his brother put him, and his brother's finally gotten out. And it was just, it was, on the one hand, it was really sad. And on the other hand, you almost felt sorry for Charlie because he was just such a follower, he's not like Locke or Jack. He's just going to latch on to whoever's there. And if somebody's mean to him, it really works on him, So it just, I felt really bad for Charlie a lot.
The first moment Charlie becomes a leader on the island is when he, weirdly enough, is when he kills Ethan.
See, I felt it was when he crawled in to save Jack.
I feel like that was like a more of, I need to fill the void of letting someone down again. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a leader. I'm not sure if that's like adjacent to like what a leader should be, like filling a void or making it, trying to. Actually, you know what? Upon further reflection, that is like leader quality tendencies. But when he took on like took the gun and he killed Ethan, I was like, oh wow, he's a leader now, but not he's like a perverse version of a leader. He's taking killing into his own hands. And one, I don't think you should have killed Ethan. I think you should have let Saeed do his little soldier thing, like grab whatever information possible. Because Saeed, when he tortured Sawyer, I was like, I had to look away. I was like, this is.
Oh yeah, it's a rough scene.
That was too much.
Saeed's my dude. I'm glad that he finally got brought up. We're like an hour into this show, and we finally brought up my. I won't say whether because I don't want to spoil anything. But after season 1, Saeed and Hurley were my 2 guys.
Oh yeah, Hurley.
Did Saeed die or something? Is that why you for?
No. I will say that about everybody. I just don't want to. I don't want to. I feel like if I'm like, I love Saeed all the way through, then that kind of says something. Or if I'm like, I liked him after season 1, but then I stopped liking him, that might say something.
And so the thing I'll say to you guys now is, especially for me anyway, how long a character makes it on the show does not correlate to where they rank in my character likability rankings.
Yeah, so, me too. I go by their hair, which is why obviously Saeed is number 1.
And what I can tell you guys is like Saeed was in my top 5 until he wasn't. and at that point he was in my bottom 5, and it was pretty dramatic. So
I feel like the show is going to be. I hope the show doesn't verge on being like Game of Thrones on HGH when they're like all these characters start dying.
No, it's not like, for one, it doesn't introduce nearly the range of characters that the Game of Thrones does, and two, they don't die quite as
frequently.
Much. Yeah, like. And whereas in Game of Thrones, it's kind of like a lot of the deaths are for the sake of like just characters dying and shock and everything. In Lost, it's more part of the plot. Like they're not dying just for the hell of it.
Well, until the remember season 4, the Blue Wedding? How many dropped out? That was insane.
So to loop back around a little bit, so we were talking about Rousseau. Josh, what's your take on Rousseau?
I mean, she seems to know a lot. Like, she acts a little bit stir crazy, I guess. Like, but obviously Saeed heard the whispering from the others too when he was leaving her place, so she's not making that up. But I do kind of wonder about like her, like other people getting sick or whatever, and then her having to kill them off. What does that actually mean? Or if they're just not agreeing with her anymore and doing their own thing, so she's trying to get rid of them because she sees them as a threat, and she's in some sort of like post-traumatic state from her baby being taken. But overall, I think she has her own reasons for doing things, and sometimes they align with survivors and sometimes they don't. But she's just going to do her thing, and we'll see how it affects everybody else down the road.
All right, yeah. Any more thoughts on Charlie and Saeed, since we sort of talked on those two as well?
I mean, I think Charlie's okay, I guess. Like, I don't have strong opinions of him either way. He obviously overcame a lot by like coming to the island as like a drug addict and then being able to overcome that somewhat, but then kind of looking like he's going to relapse towards the end of the season. And I agree that like he probably shouldn't have killed Ethan, but I get why he did. Like, he got strung up from a tree and he hurt Claire, and Charlie really likes Claire. Like, he wants her. So,
well, and I think in part Charlie sees Claire and Aaron as his chance at redemption.
Yeah. And as for Saeed, I think I like Saeed. Like, his heart is in the right place. Like, even when he was like he didn't want to torture people. It just like happened to be his job. And then eventually, like, he found, like, with Nadia, he didn't want to do it at all, and he helped free her. And then he spends all this time trying to track her down, and then he gets blackmailed basically by the government into turning in his other friend for terrorism and forcing him to go through with it.
Yeah, Saeed's been misused a lot by authority. Like, that's a large part of his backstory for sure. So the last character I wanted to ask you guys about, what's up with Ethan?
Ethan being Canadian bothers me. That's the only resident Canadian that's watching this with you guys. This bothers me, and the fact that he's from Ontario as well. Like, I'm from the same province. We can't. Like, really, JJ?
I mean, do you think his name was really Ethan?
Maybe I don't. You know what?
He made up a whole backstory. Maybe he's not really Canadian.
Hopefully not. Hopefully he's from, like, I don't know, Denmark or something. I don't know. Give that to them. Like, you can't be Canadian, man. Like, I'm watching this show. I'm like, he's from Ontario. Please be like the California Ontario or something. Like, then it's like, it's revealed he's Canadian. I was like, all right, great. I'm gonna watch this show now.
When I first saw him, I thought he had creepy eyes too. Like, he just looked like a creeper.
He's a weird looking dude. Like,
he's like a creepy, ugly Tom Cruise. That's what it looks like to me. Sorry,
he has a like elongated face, and he's got like pretty deep lines in the face as well. So like, he's definitely. I definitely, the first time I watched the show, he's a striking looking character. You're like, oh damn, look at that guy.
He could have been like an extra on Breaking Bad, like as a DA agent. He has that persona of, okay, I can muddle my way through like a screen or a frame and not get noticed, but notice at the same time if I wear like a very bright neon FBI t-shirt or the DA shirt. That's the only way I would pay attention to him. There's a lot to, like, I'm still not with the fact he's from Ontario.
You're just not gonna let that go, are you?
No, because now we're known for like the only place in the world that has bagged milk and Ethan from Lost. Like,
dude, I just looked up Ethan from Lost, the actor. He's cousins with Tom Cruise.
Holy crap, that's hilarious.
Yes, this is insane.
Man.
I swear I did not know that when I said he looked like an ugly Tom Cruise.
Damn.
He's the ugly Canadian Tom Cruise.
What about you, Josh? What's your take on Ethan?
I mean, I don't really know what's going on with. Well, he's obviously dead now, but he obviously knew they were there. And I don't know if it was like he was just like a different person on the island, or if he's working with the others. He definitely went there to spy on them and to watch them and take Claire's baby or take Claire, or he seemed to have a motivation for why he infiltrated the group. And then it went really fast from him infiltrating the group when we first introduced to him to being where we already know that he's bad. Like, he doesn't have his own episode or anything like that.
So why do you think that happened? Do you think it was his plan to turn that quickly?
I mean, I think it was just because they wanted to make something happen in this show. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know about his personal motivation being the reason why they had him turn so quickly.
My read on it from rewatching the season is that it was Hurley doing the registry, getting out the
census.
Yeah.
I thought Hurley was going to be on the verge of dictatorship at the end of that. I was like, what is this guy doing? He's grabbing all this information. Ethan was Ethan like a 12-time black belt guy? Like, how did he destroy Jack with ease?
Jack slid down the thing first.
Yeah, and Jack's a doctor. He's not like a fighter.
I feel like a doctor would have like better hand-eye coordination to the point where he can like hold his own. But Ethan is doing.
Wait, I'm sorry. Did you just tell me that you think like surgery skills translate to fighting?
You know what? Jack's like a special character. Who knows? He might be able to levitate as well. Who knows with the show? But like Ethan was destroying him. It was like a character on Mortal Kombat. It was like,
yeah, he beat the hell out of him.
It was Jack reminds me of. It's like, okay, it's Hayden Christensen, the actor, versus a character from Mortal Kombat. That's essentially what that was. I felt so bad for Jack when he was getting destroyed. I was like, getting his food eaten right now. Like,
I mean, do we really think that any like TV doctors could take on like any like McDreamy from Grey's Anatomy or House, or I can't think of like one badass TV doctor. Can you guys?
No.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah. They're. And I would actually propose that maybe Jack would be the biggest baddie of them all.
The closest thing to a badass is of any of the TV doctors would have to be Hawkeye.
Oh yeah, good call. From A-Team.
What?
I have no idea what that is.
No, from MASH.
Oh, from MASH. Yeah.
I have no idea.
Man, you went old school.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like the only old show I like. Yeah.
Mind you, I'm like 30 years younger than everyone here, so you have to like dumb this stuff down for me.
You should watch MASH. It's good. You'd like it. You'd like Hawkeye's humor.
Okay, I trust you.
We'll start a MASH podcast. There'll be like 2 65-year-olds who know how to work the internet that will listen to it.
It'd be a bunch of millennials rediscovering it, I'm sure. Yeah. All right. So are you guys ready for the fun part of the podcast?
May I use the washroom first?
Yes. Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Number 1 or number 2?
Number 1. Really quick.
Okay, yeah.
No, I honestly, you guys have made some really good observations. I've been impressed. Like, it was stuff I definitely did not notice when I watched season 1.
Yeah, I almost feel like we might just include this part in the podcast. We may not even cut this out. But I feel like they're more educated on how to watch shows now than we were when we watched Lost. Because of Lost and then all the shows that followed it, to look for certain things, and you kind of know, we've been kind of educated and trained to watch shows a certain way and to notice things a certain way and to think that maybe things are leading somewhere else than they could be leading. Maybe then when we watched Lost for the first time.
Yeah. I mean, I think at least somewhat, like, I know that it became like a big phenomenon and everybody was talking about it and watching it. So, like, obviously a lot of stuff happens to generate that kind of interest in it. Right. But it was written like season to season. It wasn't like Mr. Robot or Westworld, which they have an outline for 5 seasons and how everything's going to be covered.
Yeah, and I will say, like, I think they had their overall plot down, or at least they knew kind of where they wanted to go with it. But you're right, it wasn't like those other shows where they even had they didn't have a plan for individual seasons or anything like that. That's absolutely the case. And I think you can tell with the writing in some seasons in particular that, you know, sometimes they're hedging their bets. They don't know if they'll get to make it through all 6 seasons or not. You know, that being the reality of network television.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's, I think partly that's it, but some of the stuff I was just really impressed with you guys noticing parallels that I didn't even necessarily notice watching this time again.
Yeah.
You know, even knowing things that I know now. So
nice.
I was like, wow, that's actually, I was like, wow, hey, that was a good catch by them. You know,
yeah, they said a lot of things. I was like, oh, that's pretty impressive. I just don't want to add much to it without spoiling anything. But
exactly,
they said some really good things.
And honestly, like, I'm really excited to see you guys watch season 2 because it'll be interested to see how you react to some of this stuff, given what you've said. So yeah, like you guys are definitely on some interesting tracks. Like, and I can't wait to hear what you think about the, you know, more of the show. Yeah. So fun stuff. All right. I think we're going to start with Josh. Favorite 3 characters so far?
I definitely like Hurley the best.
Oh, nice.
And then I think probably Locke, even though he can be bad possibly, but he at least is interesting and he wants to survive. And like a lot of the stuff that like bothered me in the very beginning of the show was that none of them wanted to try to survive. They just wanted to wait to be rescued. But he didn't act like that. So I liked him a lot for that. And third is probably Jack. Like, he's flat, but he's trying to be the leader, and he's being what other people want him to be still a little bit. But he does everything for everybody and is selfless.
Nice. That's a good list. That's a solid list.
And selfless is a very, very apt descriptor for Jack.
It is. Yeah, which is why I don't understand why some people don't like him, but I digress.
I can see the criticism because to some degree, he never, like, part of Jack's story is learning to not become selfless. You know,
they do get into that.
I mean that in kind of almost the literal sense. Like, you need to have a self. You can't just be what other people need.
Right.
You know. So yeah, I thought that was a really good observation for Jack. Like, his thing is how he defines himself by other people.
Yeah, it almost becomes a flaw in some ways, like you said, because that's really what all he does is look out for other people to a fault. Youthich, who are your top 3 favorite characters?
In order, Hurley, because he's like the most lovable guy.
He is.
But even without knowing his backstory, like the Hurley episode when he wins the lottery and all those things happen to him, he seems like his heart is like in the right place at all the times. Like, all right, people need food, so let's go hunt food or something like that. And whenever he tries something, it's always like this adorable. It's always done in like an adorable fashion. When he tries to find Rousseau, it's like, oh my god, he's going on a little adventure. I can't wait to go with him.
I love the little scene between him and Jin when he's trying to catch fish and he steps on the urchin. Like, he's trying to get Jin to pee on his foot.
Yeah, he's like, pee on my foot, I've seen it before, pee on my foot. Like, I think Hurley's the perfect dose of comedic relief, and I think he's beyond just comedic relief. I think he's more of, it's refreshing to see, and that's what comedic relief is supposed to be doing, like a refreshment, but it's like prolonged refreshments with Hurley, and I'm glad Hurley's a character, a featured character. If he was like one of those if Hurley was a character like Arntz who showed up in 2 episodes, I would be disappointed. I'd be like, oh, I wanted more of Hurley. So we're grabbing like a good amount of Hurley, but I want the Hurley cameos up. Like, he has to be. I want like 5 Hurley dedicated episodes per season now. Like,
so more Hurley is the message, basically.
More Hurley, man. I speak for Logan too. Hurley's the best.
No, I love Hurley. Hurley is great.
All right, Vincent. the dog. You might think I'm joking, but
Yeah, I thought you were joking earlier, but now I just made your official list.
There's strong validity in being constant and being the only constant on the show. I mean, I think Hurley's Hurley being naive at times is constant, but he does learn to adapt, learn to become more nuanced, whatever it may be. But Vincent's the constant, he doesn't love a dog. I mean, even if you're a cat person listening to this or watching this, you gotta love animals, man. Animals are cool. They're really cool people. They're when Walt gave Vincent to Shannon, I was like, oh my god, I'm not gonna cry right now, but I'll cry later. It's almost like Vincent is this token of relief as well. I like characters that provide relief, especially for characters going through turmoil, through trouble. And Shannon just lost Boone. She potentially just lost Saeed as well, or sort of isolated herself from Saeed for now. Who knows? Maybe they get together later on. Hopefully they do, because love is pretty cool. But I like Vincent. He provides comfort. And when they first find Vincent in the forest, and Locke finds Vincent for him, I was like, oh, this is cute. I like that. And Sun is my third favorite character.
Nice.
So I feel like Sun doesn't get the props that she deserves. She's coming up with all these herbal medicines, saving people left and right, providing. It's when I think it was Boone. It was Boone is pretty much going to be that. She was the moral compass to Jack, who's been being Jack, who has been trying to be the moral compass for everyone on the island. So Jack gets to learn, okay, this is how you make a decision. And I think Josh pointed out earlier, it's this island is helping people find themselves and becoming more reassured of themselves. So without Sun, I don't think Jack is the character that makes the decision of highlighting discretion or the concept of discretion later on to Locke. She's the nugget or the medium that helps Jack become the leader he thinks he is or wants to be.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Also, right. Sun getting her heart broken. That was sad. At the end. But then got repaired when Jin went off. That was a cute scene. I was all right.
Jin and Sun have some of the scenes that pull at your heartstrings the most in the show.
Yeah.
And the two actors, they do a really great job of selling that relationship.
For sure.
We need more love in this series, man. Love is cool.
You'll get plenty of loving.
There we go.
All right. Bottom three characters. Your least favorite Lost characters. Let's go with Yudish first.
Okay. I feel like I'm going to get hate for this. Charlie.
You bastard.
I'm not a fan of Charlie at all, man. I think his most redeemable quality is that he is Claire's support, and Claire needs support right now, especially since she just had a kid, and the kid was essentially trying to be abducted every 10 seconds by Rousseau, who is also on my bottom three. Charlie is childish, but you also feel bad for Charlie as well because he's been taken advantage of, like Sam pointed out. So you do feel a sense of remorse when you take it back in retrospect. It's oh wow, he is supposed to be living the life that his brother is living, which sucks when you think about it. I don't have a brother; I'm an only child. But if that happened, I was like, yo, you're my bro. You're supposed to be supporting me, whatever it might be. But Charlie, bottom three. Rousseau, you don't take kids, man. That you don't take anyone, really. I think the moment I was on the fence of Rousseau until Claire had her flashback of when she said, "Oh, when did I do that to you?" And she's referring to the scratches on Rousseau's left arm.
Yeah, I
was like, all right, she tried to take the baby. The scene pops up. Oh, she tried to take the baby. It's like, all right, yeah, off. You can't. I don't want that. I'm not a fan of that.
So we're off the Russo train after that.
Oh, off the Russo train, unless like she starts levitating as well. I don't know. She finds an Infinity Stone. I don't know where the show is gonna go. And then Saeed is my bottom three.
Yeah. Oh, bottom three. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was about to get excited, and then I remember we were doing bottom three.
So,
Yeah. No, I like that your favorite character and my favorite character both in his bottom three.
Yep.
At first, I was rooting for Saeed. I was like, "Oh man!" As like a person of color, I saw Saeed. I was like, "Yes, we're here." Him and Michael and Walt. I was like, "Yes, we're doing it." And then Sun and Jin provide like, you were like, "All right, there was some good representation here." So I was rooting for Saeed until they found out like until he started doing that stuff to Sawyer. I was like, "Nah, man, you can't. This guy's like a weapon. You can't." That scene where he just starts torturing Sawyer just turned me off completely. So anything he does do now, it's always with a grain of salt for me.
I gotta say, man, that scene, I remember watching it the first time, and like it was pretty rough for network television. Like that torture scene.
Oh yeah.
I mean, granted, I was watching it on DVD, but still, like I remember being shocked, like because that just wasn't something you saw on many shows at that time.
Oddly enough, that when shows or movies steal things from other movies or other shows,
yeah,
like iconic bits. So like you'll see another show that has like a plane crash into an island and they themselves get lost. I feel like movies and TV shows should go away from copying those larger ideas and instead copying or try to mimicking the ideas of those smaller, intricate things that make the mosaic of a show. So Saeed torturing Sawyer, that should be reincarnated. When Jack and his father are drinking by the pool, that should be reincarnated because those are like more sentimental scenes rather than a plane crashing. That's a little weird tangent.
No, and I mean that's one of the things that sucked people in about Lost is these crazy stories about the island are interspersed with stuff from these people's history that connects directly to what's happening to them in that episode. So the character development's very front and center. Like, these episodes are thematic. There's a reason they focus on one character per flashback per episode for the most part. Like, yeah, so it's a really good observation. And it's one of the, like, that was a really unique structure for Lost when it came out as well. Like the whole flashback thing and the way it faded in and out with the story from the island. So I think that's a really good call out is those are the scenes that tell you who the characters are, and then you see them working through that stuff on the island.
Hollywood should be copying those stuff, not like the plane crash idea. Let's step away. Let's copy these things or make new ideas off them.
And I think that's where really good shows today, like Westworld, are taking a cue because like they do a lot of character development and stuff like that. So, all right, Josh, who are your bottom three?
My bottom three, Arts. He was such a know-it-all about like the monsoon thing, and he turns out, I guess, he lied about. And like him with the dynamite and then blowing himself up after like telling everybody else that they had to handle it really carefully.
God, it was so great though. I love it.
It was funny, but I just didn't like him. He like rubbed me the wrong way.
That's fair. That's fair.
The point of him. Yeah. I mean,
yeah. And then I think my second least favorite character is Michael. Like, just
really?
Everything. He overreacts to everything. Like, he like thought Jin was like doing something. And he like locked him up, and then like with the handcuff, and then he like later on he like fights Jin over the bow, thinking that he torched it and whatever. He is every time, and even a lot of his dealings with Walt, it's like he thinks something is going on that isn't going on, and then he overreacts to that and causes some other problem.
I think what kills me is he just never apologizes for any of it.
Yeah.
Like, he totally becomes friends with Jin later, and he's never like, hey, bro, sorry, I thought you burned the raft.
Yep.
Yeah, I was totally justified. Fuck you.
No, you're right. That's a great point on my. He is kind of an overreactor. That's a good call.
And the last one is Shannon. She's just really annoying.
I'm surprised this is the first time she's been brought up. To sorry, go ahead. Yeah, to me, easily Shannon was the worst character season one.
Like for like the first like half of the show, she doesn't do anything. She just like lays on the beach and tries to like look pretty and wait to get rescued.
Which
and then eventually Saeed
well.
gets her to like help with stuff, but she still doesn't want to do very much. It seems like.
Yeah, I mean she's obviously hot. I mean she's nice to look at. But I was so torn when the whole building thing between her and Saeed, because Saeed is my favorite, and Shannon just got on my nerves so much season one. So I'm glad that you brought her up as a terrible character.
But yeah, for me, like my least favorite characters after season one were Shannon, Boone, and Michael.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
I couldn't stand any of them.
Michael's underrated, man. That guy.
I love Walt.
Hey, don't get me wrong. Like Harold Perrineau, the actor that plays Michael, he's fantastic.
Great. Yeah, he's great.
Like,
he is.
But that's part of the reason I don't like Michael the character is because Harold does such a fantastic job making him.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
If Michael dies before he like reunites with Walt, or if he reunites with Walt, I'm also off this show.
I like how there's all these like triggers that are gonna make.
I can't wait. Like he's gonna fall in love with a new character and forget all about some.
Oh, it's good. That's completely. That's 100% true.
Yeah,
it's gonna happen.
It's interesting, and that's the other thing too. I can say this without feeling it's very spoilery. Some characters will leave the show for the most part without dying, so like just get prepared for that.
They just like walk off set. They did.
I mean, it'll be part of the story, but you just got. I mean, it's a network show, so it's not like the big HBO shows where they can write contracts for season over season over season. So,
are there any recasts?
I don't think so.
All right.
No, there's no recasts. They're all thankfully. But well, should I say?
No, I think I'm pretty sure there's no recast.
There's no recast. I was just going to mention how one of the characters. No, I'm just not going to say it. Just not going to say anything at all. I'll mention it to you later, Sam. But yeah, no recast. Definitely not.
We end up seeing Henry Cavill as Jack.
Yeah.
All right. So, biggest WTF moment of season one, Josh.
That's a good question.
I think when Walt tells Locke to not open the hatch, or he says, "Don't open it." I don't think he says the hatch, but that like him knowing something else was like there was something else going on at a different level than what's being obviously presented, and so to me that was really shocking. Like up to that point, it had been fairly straightforward, aside from a couple weird mystical elements.
Okay, cool. I like it. Tish, what about you?
Is it tied between the Dementors that Kate and Jack see?
Dementors.
Or Arndt's blowing up?
Okay.
I'm just I'm still like, yo, they blew him up. Why you gotta do that to a character?
That was one of my single most favorite moments for the show. Like all these years later, and I still remember it anytime somebody mentions that guy's name. Like even when Logan first mentioned him, I think I wrote like LMAO Arzt, and then when he got to when he blows up, he like replied to that in the WhatsApp chat because he knew immediately what I was laughing at. But yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. The weird ass Dementor. Okay. I like. Yeah, I don't think the Harry Potter movies have gotten that far.
I'm telling you, you don't see it, but Daniel Radcliffe is there. He's there somewhere.
So, is there anything we didn't talk about yet that you guys really wanted to discuss? Like anything that happened that we didn't bring up yet?
Kate's love story. That
we haven't even brought up Kate at all.
Yeah.
I think this is the first. She's one of the main characters. Oh no, you mentioned earlier her tending to Jack's wound, but I think this is the only other time we've even brought her up. Good call.
Yeah, and I will say, like Kate was she was one of my favorite characters throughout the show. Like partially because I had a huge crush on her.
Oh, she's so pretty.
God, she's hot.
Yeah. Here, hold on. An aside, real quick, okay. So this is going to remain in the podcast, but I have to tell this story. Speaking of Kate, so I had this picture of Evangeline Lilly, who plays Kate, as my computer wallpaper for quite a while, for like a year or something like that, right? So one time I'm playing on my computer, and I have one of my friends over, and I pull down, whatever browser I'm looking at, and they see my wallpaper, and they're like, "Dude, why do you have a picture of your sister on your wallpaper?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, she does look like my sister." I felt like the most disgusting piece of crap ever, because I had such a big, huge crush on Kate and thought she was like the hottest. And this like wallpaper is like, she's got, I don't know, just like a hot pose or whatever. And then all I could see is my sister. So I instantly lost my crush on Kate from that moment on. Now all I see is my sister. So
parallels and lost Boone and his sister, like Shannon. That's the thing too.
Oh yeah, that's true. And maybe
it's
kind of weird, but I thought that was kind of hot.
The show is stocked with parallels.
Yeah, HBO thinks it's being all groundbreaking with the incest. But...
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so let's talk about Kate. What did you think? You liked her backstory, right? Like,
that love story hits close to home a bit. It's like, damn, I know what you're feeling, Kate. Like, yeah, I understand.
Well, and I mean, and like it was pretty rough. She's trying to say goodbye to her dying mom, and her mom's terrified of her.
Oh, not that part. I'm talking about her and Tom. I was like,
don't even care.
Yeah, it's
whatever about her mom. Yeah.
Oh, I want to know more about that actually. Like, why is her mom ratting her out and like saying, "Help, help!" Like, this is your kid, bro. Like, you should not be ratting on your kid or bring anything. Because I feel like I think Kate did something before the Tom stuff.
Yeah,
like
she's already on the run from something, it seemed like.
Yeah, I think she did something like
I'm
criminal.
curious to see more about her backstory before I can really make a decision about whether or not I actually like her or not.
Yeah, but that love story, that was cute. Damn, good stuff, Abrams. I can bring that good stuff with my Batman script, by the way. Abrams, I'm just putting this out here again.
So what do you guys make of the Jack, Sawyer, Kate love triangle?
I mean, she seems to be moving more towards liking Sawyer than she does Jack. Like, they seem to have a lot more in common with their history.
Yeah, like if I felt that way after season 1 too. I felt like, as somebody who liked Jack more and thought that Jack was a better dude than Sawyer, I thought that she should be going for Jack. But it did seem like if this were the real world and they weren't on the island, then they seemed to fit better, Kate and Sawyer, since they both kind of had shady backgrounds. And I kind of felt like Jack was kind of, if it was the real world, maybe he'd be kind of too good for her because he's kind of goody two shoes, and she was kind of, she was kind of trouble. But I'm not gonna lie, I wanted to ship them the whole time. Season 1, Jack and Kate.
Yeah, same.
I was a Jate guy.
A what?
God.
A Jate guy. I was
Kate.
Oh. Okay. I like Sawyer and Kate, like as like a tandem. Like, I feel like they can hopefully Sawyer makes it back onto the island in one piece. If he dies in the ocean, I'm also off the show. If Sawyer dies in the ocean,
man, so many conditions.
There's a lot of stipulations in it. I feel like they can. I sort of want them to start taking the leader roles from Locke and Jack, because I feel like they're the most tactful, and they know they can operate under almost any circumstance. They've been on the run. They've conned their way into certain situations. They know how to, as weird as it sounds, they know how to manipulate people, but that can also be manipulation could be a transferable skill. They know where everyone's strengths and weaknesses are, so they can place people like on this chessboard to like go against the other people, or they can go against whatever the island is going to throw at them.
Do you think either of them have learned how to use that skill to help others yet?
I think it's going to take like an active agent to do it. And I think I want Hurley to be that agent. Like Hurley's going to save the day or something. If he's gonna be like, Kate.
You know, man, I got to say, I love that even in Lost Season 1, they had Hurley create that golf course.
Yeah.
Like, thinking of that among everything else that was going on.
Yeah, that was, because you need levity in this show. There's high stakes and all this serious drama and death and stuff like that. You need not only his sense of humor and comic relief, but, they need to have some fun, right? Like if you're on an island and there'd be a lot of boring, downtime too, and you just do something fun. It was kind of perfect and fitting for Hurley's character that he came up with that.
And Hurley just, he tells it like it is, and not in a mean way. Just like he just lays it out for you. And it was just hilarious to me how many like little secrets he let slip in season 1. Like lets somebody know that Kate's a fugitive after he sees that. Oh, he lets Locke know. He's like, he didn't know. Crap.
Yeah.
And like it's just the way he handles everything. Like Hurley's just Hurley, there's no pretense there. There's no ulterior motive. And that was why the numbers episode was so much fun, because Hurley's like laser focused on going to find Rousseau after he sees those numbers. And it was weird. You're like, whoa, Hurley's got something going on with him. Like, okay.
Right.
Yeah, but it's interesting that you keep pointing out other people that you think ought to take up this leadership mantle instead of Jack and Sawyer, or Jack and Locke.
Yeah, I think you need to be more dynamic in order to be a leader, especially like in a TV show. Not like speaking like professionally or like in the real world, but like have that tinge of erraticism with you that Charlie has too much of, but Sawyer and Kate have like the right amount of touch to it. Like they can do something completely left field, but then it's like, okay, they can do something left field after doing so many things so right and so well that if they do something left field, like it's fine, it's a wash. But if Charlie does it, Charlie's always going left field to the point where he's in the parking lot. So you're expecting Charlie to always mess up, or Charlie to always create some sort of form of chaos. With Kate and Sawyer, it's like they can do so many things so well, or at least I think they can. That's okay if they make one wrong move. Like you can't keep having Jack and Locke make all the right moves. Like I want to see something go wrong with like leadership on that island.
Well, don't worry about that.
There's going to be plenty of things that go wrong on this island, whether it be in leadership or in other areas. There's going to be a lot.
That was also one of my stipulations. Leaders have to go through a lot. There we go.
Yeah. Well, that stipulation, I can tell you without spoilers, will be met. All right. Well, awesome. This was fun. And now we get to start season 2.